What's up, guys? Sorry I didn't make my, background or anything look all stylish and shit. I don't know why. I think it's always because when, if I decide to randomly do a video right after I randomly decide to torture myself with a YouTube astrologer video, and I see how hard they try to, like, make everything look nice, I need to remember, too, that first off, I don't need to be fake like that, and secondly, a lot of that is for show, because if they don't at least, like, make the visual look appealing to you, then they've got fucking nothing, because they don't actually tell you anything useful. So, let's not... I know I'm really, really hardcore tempted to fucking just go on a fucking, shit-talking, roasting fit, but I'm gonna be a little bit constructive about this since I was trying to at least steer myself in that direction initially. We are still enduring a Mercury retrograde right now in Sagittarius, of all things. Sagittarius is not a very great sign for Mercury to be in, even if it's direct, because it's the polarity of the sign that rules, the masculine sign that rules Mercury. So it's supposed to be the resulting knowledge and conclusive kind of information that one would have after they've actually studied something. So that's also another reason why I'm not trying to pick on Sagittarius, and I think that's what's kind of going on. I'm feeling some Virgo hardcore or something. But basically, that's why Sagittarius is, they're really hard to keep the attention span, just like with Pisces Mercury, because in ancient astrology, they're both pretty much one and the same. But the difference between Pisces and Sagittarius is that Pisces you just can't keep their focus for the life of them. Like, if their life depended on it and yours did, you'd both be dead. Sagittarius, they could, technically, if you told them it was life or death, but they just will listen for a couple seconds, and then they'll hear one thing that they just have some sort of, different bias against, regardless of how minuscule or huge it is. And they'll either hear something that they're familiar with, just one word, and they already assume what you're going to say, and they've already jumped to the end of the conversation, and they stop listening to you. Or, they hear one fucking word you said that they don't like, and then they fucking lose their shit, and then they can't focus back on what the hell was even going on in the first place, because their imagination gets the best of them, and they blow up. That's Jupiter for you. But anyway, so, it's a little scattered, and, yeah, Sagittarius archetype is known for preaching and bitching and being self-righteous and shit, and I've got enough Sagittarius in me, I don't really need to thoroughly go over that. There's plenty of my vlogs out there where I'm like that. But anyway, so for the current time frame that we have going on, it's the 14th today of December. So in the upcoming transits we have that are major, obviously I focus on more of the outer planets because it's going to set the tone, especially sociologically. Where's my handy dandy marker? God damn it, that's one of the thin ones too. Okay, there we go. I always got it right out, especially when I feel like I'm being a dirtbass. So, Saturn has been in Sagittarius from 2015 to present. And it's, let's see. See, my attention span's awful. I just forgot the date. It enters Capricorn on the 19th. Okay. So, today's the 14th, so in 5 days, we're gonna, so, Sagittarius is there we go. I don't even know if you can see that because it's glaring. Screw it. Okay, so Sagittarius is a mutable sign. That's why everything seems a little bit unstable, wishy-washy, and it's definitely been adding some very, very stressful plot twists, and, like, I guess, the remnants are coming loose on the ends of like a stitch or something like that. People have literally been feeling like they're coming unhinged, because obviously the mutable signs have to do with your mental stability as well, and we have had a significant trine aspects here and there with Uranus and Aries, and the Uranus-Pluto square has definitely been causing a lot of fucking chaotic changes and stuff. So the good news with Saturn going into Capricorn is that it's a cardinal. Well, that's actually not the good news when we're talking about getting a little bit of a relief from all the intense change. But the good thing is that it's an Earth sign, so it's going to that can be taken good and bad. It's the equivalent of like if somebody were driving too fast and someone was scared in the car, and they're terrified, and all of a sudden somebody has to violently slam on the brakes, that's a very traumatizing thing, getting choked by the seatbelt, and and being scared and that. But then once the stop actually happens and you're over it, you're in relief because you're not wondering if you're hurtling toward your death. So that's the kind of aftershock relief, more or less. But on a astropsychological perspective, with Saturn is going to be in Capricorn for 3 years, so that's a sub period, and Saturn is the timekeeper, so it sets a lot of cultural and pop culture and sociological trends. And Capricorn is known for being conservative. I know that's a dirty word nowadays for most people. And it's also known for the in general, it's the 10th house. It's supposed to be the authority. It's specifically too because Trump actually has significant planets in Cancer that are in the houses that are above the horizon. So that would be the exterior houses. That although he's a Cancer, the polarity is going to be the symptoms that would manifest in his behavior, how people would basically perceive him. So he comes off like a hard, stern Capricorn kind of father figure. And with the millennial generation, specifically mine, basically been raising themselves, and never being told no. That's the generation specifically that's basically losing their shit, is more so about Trump just coming in and saying, okay, I'm not doing anything ridiculous, but I'm going to lay down some ground rules and we're going to do this. And there's no buts. That's like the most horrific end of the world words you could ever say to a millennial. Or to their permafried, acid-fried professors that have been conspiring to take over the universities forever. But anyway, so, see, that's that Sagittarius dogmatics shit, boo. But anyway, so, we already have Pluto in Capricorn, hence that was the USA's placement for that. And the USA's chart actually has it at 27 degrees. So right now it's actually at 17 degrees, I believe. But anyway, so we have Pluto in Capricorn. We're going to have Saturn in Capricorn. We already have, I'm not going to include Black Moon Lilith, because Black Moon Lilith actually plays more into, since it's associated with the moon, and the moon is associated with like the collective attitude of the people, of the American people, it's going to play more into the, pretty much like, without getting too deep into the symbolism, it's going to play more to like the liberals and or the millennials that are basically going to be very defensive. It's like a rabid dog that's scared for its life, and you're cornering it. Like, I actually explained this to somebody the other day, that we're slowly becoming all red conservative. You can look at the electoral maps from 1996 to present, and that's evident. It's been like a that's not supposed to be a pun or progressive thing for them to all turn red. Yeah, anyway, so when we have Saturn the timekeeper, that's a generational planet, and Pluto in Capricorn, then we're going to have, let's see, I know we have, hold on, see, I'm having a brain fart, let me look at my thing. Okay, instead of like meandering and trying to pick up on a train of thought I probably didn't even have, let me look at what I have here. So for December 2017, my software does have automated generated interpretations. I do like to reference those every once in a while, especially when I feel like an airhead like I do right now. But specifically so I make sure that I don't become too engulfed in dogmatic, more or less, in my perspective, and keep myself more objective and accurate and realistic. So I'm usually being platonic. I take the more morbid, dark, fatalistic, like Neoplatonic or even hypochondriac kind of thing. And the person that wrote this, I can't remember I think her name is Stephanie something. She wrote one of the A to Z's with Zodiac encyclopedia. She's the everything's great and yeah, you should do your best and bad things happen but we can make it through. Yeah, I'm not like that at all. So this is actually a great kind of opposition narrative for me to always compare myself to, so I don't get too carried away and go all Nostradamus status. But anyway, so I specifically highlighted the just a brief description for the 19th of December, the 25th, the 26th, and the 28th. So the 19th of December, that's going to be when Saturn enters Capricorn. So conservative values develop. So get this. This I don't know her for sure personally, but just because I know who she's coupled with, and pretty much there's probably maybe I actually, besides Peter Novak and like maybe Jane, but Jane's from Finland and he is not even American, so I can't even count that really. Peter Novak I think might be conservative leaning. I think anybody with a brain kind of, would agree with Trump regardless. But, I know that most of the astrological community was basically being an echo chamber and saying, Trump won't win last year. So, I know for a fact that she hangs out with those kind of people. I just don't know her personally. But when she says conservative values are developing now, if you were to have somebody that has that kind of, liberal kind of progressive perspective that just actually blatantly writes that out, I mean, she obviously is accurate and knows what she's talking about. But that probably, really, killed her inside to write that out. But conservative values develop now. You turn to authority for answers. That would be, obviously, the government. And shoulder your responsibilities and make solid plans. So, that's emphasizing on what even Trump was talking about today with, the tax plan, and everybody was freaking out about that. And I don't know what the hell's going on with this net neutrality thing. I know what it is, but, some people are saying that they're repealing it, and then some people are saying that they're gonna vote on it, or they're going to instill it, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Because I thought it was a concept, I didn't know it was already something that was going on. Yeah, well, welcome to America. But, so that's gonna be one major thing that they're gonna be working on still, but primarily the tax plan is gonna be the focal. And specifically Trump said today, that he's got the tax plan all worked out. And that, I won't go into the details about that or whatever, because I'm not going to argue with anybody. But, he basically said that he presented it to Congress, and if they get it back by Christmas, or they sign it by Christmas, that, in February of next year, all the tax breaks that will be happening for, the middle class and the working Americans or whatever, are going to, they'll basically get more money back on their taxes. It'll actually go into effect that quick. I mean, he's a Gemini, so at least there's that. But, so, making solid plans and shoulder your responsibilities. So, if Congress actually cooperates and people, pull the stick out of their ass, or the millennials, maybe go suck on their binky and have a safe space timeout for 5 minutes or something like that, and then come back and grow the fuck up, they'd actually listen for 5 minutes and realize that they're actually going to benefit from this as well. But, so there's that on the 19th. And then the 25th, we have the progressed moon and a sesquare, I can never say that, sesquare, radix to the north node. So this is basically a very mild square to the north node. The moon is supposed to represent collectively the American people. So it said so this is going to be everybody, not just the conservatives or the pro-Trump people or the never-Trump people. This is everybody collectively. So it says your life is changing in ways that may be uncomfortable. So it's going to be a very drastic change for everybody. Again, the metaphor with the whole car slamming on its brakes thing. Everybody's going to get the whiplash. But some people are going to be happy that they stopped, and then some people are going to be like, why did we do that? So, nobody's ever going to be happy. But, yeah, again, that's America. So, changing in ways that may be uncomfortable at the moment, but which will bring rewards in the future. So, even I was mentioning to Boo earlier, that Steven Crowder, hi Boo. Sagittarius Mercury, bro, you're going to distract me. So, Steven Crowder, or I think it was Steven Crowder, he did one of those, he went up to, random millennials, go look.
The college Republicans thing?
Yeah, maybe it was.
It was college Republicans. It was it wasn't Crowder, but it was somebody who was particularly obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of, collect them all the same, because I'm you're intelligent, you know what you're talking about, and you're not trying to kill everybody. So I just, yeah.
Crowder comes off as a bit more of an asshole, less intelligent, though. This guy was intelligent, but still an asshole.
Yeah. But
I'm still conservative, mind you, but I still thought they were obnoxious
You are
assholes.
getting me off my subject. Anyway, so this was the first time that I've seen them trick, millennials into saying, oh, this is what Hillary said, or this is what Bernie said, and then they say Trump at the end. This is the first time I didn't see them, instantly, almost get physically violent with someone. And, as a matter of fact, there was only one that was that's interesting, and he wouldn't comment any further than that. But the rest of them were actually well, that's actually kind of a relief and weight off my shoulders that he's not as horrific as I thought. So that's the kind of turning point that's going on, and what this is referencing when it says it's uncomfortable at the moment, because everybody's still dealing with the gloom and doom shit that they're being fed from the mainstream media that I fucking told y'all 2 fucking years ago when I started doing the Saturn square Neptune thing to stop watching TV. You can even ask this fool. I used to be addicted to the television, like I would have a fucking fit like a baby if the TV wasn't on all the time. I don't even own a television anymore.
Nope.
Like, it's that fucking serious. Like, yeah. And even when I'm watching a YouTube video, I will mute. Gizzy, are you okay? I'll even mute, like, the commercial on YouTube videos and turn the phone away.
Well,
because I know what they're doing to people's heads and stuff. So, it says, whether you realize it or not, changes that are occurring right now are clearing a new path. That's the whole Trump basically gutting everything and redoing it all. And it's like one that will bring its own rewards. So, yeah, if everybody, like, again, would basically grow up a little bit. And I've been trying to challenge people, even that are not just my age in general. I'm like, just listen to the first 5 fucking minutes of any Trump speech. Don't listen to what they cut for the news thing. Just go listen to the actual speech. I was like, whatever they fucking use to make him sound horrible, he says it within the first couple minutes, and you realize that they took it out of context. I mean, even if you don't want to watch it because you'll be traumatized about Trump, if you go and just Google all the Trump speeches, and you see that every single one of these fucking videos that's from different sources have different fucking timestamps on them, that's a little concerning there. Maybe it's because I went to digital media production or whatever, and I know that all the times need to sync up if it's the same fucking, like, recording. But yeah, poof, and it's still the same content. But anyway, so it says, don't force the process. So that's more of the on the Trumpers kind of side, or the people that are getting excited about what Trump has been doing. Don't force it, and don't get too excited, essentially, with the whole Sagittarius thing. Allow for the natural process of life to unfold, as it seems to falter at times. Faltering will be when a lot of the social services are starting to get cut. Like, so what Trump's trying to do, obviously he's trying to balance the budget and take more spending away from some of the social services, but he's been building up the economy, and he's simultaneously trying to basically do a swap out for every bit of budgeted money he's taking out for people to have food stamps or whatever else. He's basically subsidizing enough, at least, jobs in that demographic area. So if that person actually took the initiative, got off their ass, if their food stamps got cut, and went out and put applications in, there will be available jobs. So he's trying to basically make people work for stuff. That's another thing that people have been outraged about, that he wants people that are on welfare or food stamps to actually work or volunteer for their fucking money. That's not asking a lot. In fact, that should give people something to do. Unless you're, like, physically disabled, that would be SSI, so that doesn't count with what he's trying to do. I'm trying not to make this a dogmatic thing, but that's why I'm trying to read this. So, anyway, it says, if you can achieve this, then you'll be ready to soar to new heights. Soaring to new heights with, self-reliability and accountability, and even just having more money, and then you won't have to worry about petitioning to raise the minimum wage if he brings back more manufacturing jobs, and you get a higher paying job. There's that. And then, so I highlighted also the 26th of December, so that's the day after Christmas. So theoretically, Trump has said if Congress actually gets that back, then the tax cuts will happen. So it's Jupiter in a semi-square to the midhaven. So there's a stressful aspect, but Jupiter is associated obviously with Sagittarius. Trump has a Sagittarius moon, and we also have a Sagittarius rising for the USA's chart. So with this, it says good things come from people in higher places. Higher places, obviously, if you want to take this on like a spiritual level, there's obviously that as well. But when we're talking about more on a sociological level, higher places would be Trump, and that's what he emphasized, that if they get this all signed and they're cooperating. And I also did see, I think, before, like, right after the solstice, I did see 2 days in a row that there was going to be some sort of cohesive cooperativeness overall for, like, a group. So that would insinuate that the Congress is actually going to cooperate and get this done. So, with it saying good things come from people in high places, a significant person brings great rewards. He even was showing people on his tax plan thing that he was doing the speech today. He specifically pulled certain families up that he's met, and he asked them, reveal how much you usually pay in taxes, and they said this, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna actually not pay anything, and you're gonna get an additional $1,000 back in February. And they're like, wow, that's gonna be great for me and my kids. And so he used like multiple different examples of people, and they were like hugged him, and they were so happy. So that's the whole, a significant person brings great rewards. Show gratitude and not arrogance, and all will be well, just as they did today. And yeah. Let's see. So then I had the 28th written down. So this is obviously towards the end of the year. This is a couple of days before the new year, and it's a quincunx with the sun. The sun's supposed to represent the self, or on an astro-sociological level, the whole country. So the country, basically, kind of reflecting on its future path, or its mission and its direction. So it's important to face the truth, is what it says. What's really important? What do you have to change in order to move forward? So again, as it said a couple days back, when it says your life is changing in ways that are uncomfortable, but when you realize that the changes that are occurring now are a new path, so that's the slow realization, or at least the histrionic shit fit that has been ensued by basically the TVs and the broadcasting antagonizing people. It's basically starting to wear off now, because adrenaline and stamina just cannot be completely psychotic all the time. So there's some people that are sane and and a little bit more mentally balanced, at least, than the majority that are pretty much losing their marbles, that are starting to come to terms with that. So that one video that I was talking about, specifically with that Republican or whatever, Steven Crowder, interviewing those people, there was that one guy that was just interesting. He's just sticking his guns. He's likely got a lot of earth or, fixed associations in his charts, so he's not going to budge very well. But you notice that everybody else was at least not instantly jumping to violence, and at least well, that's nice. And the reaction is substantially different than it was 6 months ago, if you were to ask similar people with similar views to that. So, again, like I said, when Saturn goes into Capricorn, we already have Pluto in Capricorn as well, we're going to see a significant, strong, and that's not necessarily supposed to be a characteristic of that, or a pun or whatever, but we're going to see just a stern, solid direction and intent of conservatism. Which, again, like I said, if you reference the electoral maps, it's been a thing. And so the fact that the United States chart actually has an Aquarius moon, that's supposed to be rebellious. And so I actually did a video 2 years ago about Neptune and Pisces, how the whole world is going to basically start going in the direction towards socialism and one world kind of government, and doing some sort of, revamp with currencies like Bitcoin, or, how China just devalued their currency and they're trying to join with Russia and stuff like that. So everybody else is going to try to go onto one, basically be all in one basket, their eggs. But America, being the defiant, arrogant asshole as per usual, with an Aquarius moon, is going to go, yeah, you guys can go ahead and have that basket, but I want a shiny giant basket with a Hummer, and I want my eggs by myself. Which is what America's been all about. So I've emphasized that there has been discrepancies when I've read some of the biographies from the founding fathers. The Benjamin Franklin actually made a huge deal about waiting a couple hours for the actual declaration to be signed in the Constitution, to make sure that the moon was in a specific house, because he is an astrologer. He's the one that created the Farmer's Almanac, to make sure that when the Pluto return happens, which is right now, that the same kind of tyrannical feud and war that's going on between, which was then the British monarch and them, that will then manifest as it is now, that it will give the balls, more or less, of the American people that are embodying their kind of perspective and ideology, to basically stand their ground and do it again. So there's that. But anyway, other than that, major transit things that would be going on, we have Uranus that's going to be going direct soon. It's still in Aries. I'm just going to kind of wrap this up and go. The moon is in Scorpio right now. It changes, in 2.5 days, so I don't really worry about that. In 7 days, the sun will enter Capricorn. Mercury's still retrograde. It'll go direct in 8 days on the 22nd of December, the day after the solstice. Venus is in Sagittarius. And then, actually, Mars just went into Scorpio. So, that's actually when Jupiter, already being in Scorpio, it comes up close enough to conjunct with Mars. That's just going to magnify any of the intense Scorpio Mars kind of thing. Could be some sort of magnified surge of sexual assault, or actually, as a matter of fact, since Jupiter is associated with, basically preaching dogma or whatever, or in general, somebody who's just like talking down to you, like, I'm better than you, or I'm going to tell you what you need to know, or I'm going to, make sure that everybody knows what's going on. That being conjunct with Mars, and Scorpio is associated with the sexual organs in the 8th house, and sex and regeneration. I guess that there's likely going to be a more exacerbated, huge, like, shit fit of, like, sexual misconduct accusations. Can it actually get any worse than it is? I mean, I actually don't watch TV, but I can just gauge by how fucking ridiculously obnoxious it is, by how many people on my Facebook feed, when I actually look at that, are continuously circulating, not the same stories, but, like, I'm just like, God, I'm like, is everybody fucking, like, groping everyone? Or what the hell's going on here? Like, what? I was like, it's almost like the counterculture would be if you're not, like, a sexual deviant. It's like, it's the cool thing to be now or something. I don't know. But anyway, so, then we have Uranus is going to go direct in 19 days. And it will go into Taurus later next year. Actually, it'll go into Taurus for around February, when Trump said that people are going to be getting more money back. And since Taurus actually and Venus in the 2nd house has to do with financial astrology, and Uranus is supposed to be like with the Wonderland effect. It can be a trauma signature, but essentially on a neutral level, it's just basically going to flip everything on its head and make it reverse from what it has been. So since taxes have been high, or the middle class specifically has been getting basically ass pained and fucked over for a long time. And that's the reason why Trump ended up getting elected, despite the fact that people don't understand that. Because even the Democrats don't like him either. And I'm just like, if the Democrats and the Republicans don't like him, that means that he's doing things that would basically go against the agenda for both sides. So, yeah, he basically is going to flip the self, because the 2nd house is associated with self, resources. Instead of there being some sort of, top-heavy advantage of the upper Plutonian, the plutocracy, which is the opposite house, the 8th house, associated with corporate America, he's basically going to just go, yeah, fuck all that, and fuck the power with the government having all this extra money and shit for this and that. We're just going to go ahead and take this, and we're just going to give it right back here. So this is going to be the first time in quite some time. This basically would be like what Kennedy what was talking about and wanted to do in the 60s. And that just actually reinforces and goes back to my original reason why I predicted that Trump was going to win. It wasn't even so much, I'm like, yeah, Trump is cool. I'm like, so it's got some sort of correlation with the election of the 1960s. And then I noticed that Trump was a Gemini. And then Black Moon Lilith being in Scorpio and it having horrible aspects at the time. And Hillary was the only other opponent. I'm like, so Scorpio's definitely not going to win. She'll be lucky if she lives through the year, let alone definitely not going to win the election. So I'm like, so she's not going to win, and it's going to be some sort of synchronistic thing with the Gemini. Hello. So it was just pretty much really simple, just self-explanatory. So, and with everybody hating him as much as he is, and him going against the establishment, and him having a Uranus-Sun conjunction, he's going to be even more fucking weird. Fortunately for him, he obviously, there's higher security, and he's, like I said, he has to have his own astrologer, and he's well aware, and he's got his own security and everything like that. And he carries his own gun in his pocket. Like, Kennedy was just like a naive kind of like, yeah, this is great, this is what I want to do. And he didn't actually process or think that somebody would just fucking blow his head off like they did. Trump is well aware that people will do shit like that. He's got Mars in the 12th house, that's like a cutthroat thing. But anyway, so when, so in February, that was basically when I've been ETAing when Uranus will go into Taurus. So it's going to flip the whole financial thing. So we're actually overdue for an economic depression. But I wonder, because of the whole Wonderland phenomenon with the Uranus-Pluto square, I wonder if somehow Trump is actually, because he goes through like these surges of success, and then he has these downfalls and, you know, down on his luck. That's what happens when you have a Neptune conjunct Jupiter, and if anything has any kind of weird aspects to that, would depend on if it's beneficial or negative. But yeah, so because of the Wonderland effect, we might actually not have one, or it might be because we're experiencing the same time when the social services were originally made back in the 1930s to basically get America back up on its feet. But he's actually doing it the reverse way instead, because everybody's basically used the social services as a crutch. And so he wants to basically, instead of what Roosevelt did, is try to give handouts, that he wants to actually be a legitimate, like, leading example and go out, and he would rather physically hand people jobs. And that's just kind of echoed yet again with him being in, you know, demonstrating conversations publicly, even in his speeches, with working class Americans and getting to know them personally and who their family is and all that, and how much money they make. So he's literally like, he would rather just go, I'm going to teach you how to take care of yourself. And I totally like that. I love that. That's kind of like my approach as well. And that's why I have a lot of similarities with him too. So I think that's why I easily sympathize with him from the get-go. But anyway, so we're going to continue to go through this conservatism. Everything's still going to be really fucking weird. And the only thing, the Black Moon Lilith being in Capricorn, although that you would think that would just, you know, exacerbate or intensify the conservatism kind of thing. Black Moon Lilith is supposed to be the dark side of the ego, and obviously, if you haven't noticed, like the liberal left or the millennials, their ego is the problem. When you have the grandiose gap between self-awareness and your ego, that's when you start to develop psychosis and very, very chronic, horrible narcissism. And so there will be, again, it's just going to be a continuation of what we've been seeing. It says represents the dark side of your nature, and it's sensitive in the sign of Capricorn. Hence that this individual likes to be in charge. So remember that the moon is supposed to represent the people collectively, so it's the dark side of the people collectively. So think of the people collectively, although it would be the Trumpers or the Trump supporters as well. Obviously, all the people that support Trump aren't in the limelight and are being basically silenced on social media, on, you know, mainstream media of any kind. They're basically trying to silence them, so the only narrative is actually the one that's opposing it. So the only one you're going to hear is the liberal side that doesn't like Trump. So keep that in mind as I read this. So it says, you may think that others are trying to tell you what to do, with Trump doing what he's doing, and the rest of the country just going along with it, and the liberals and progressives living in their delusional world and thinking that because all they keep hearing is an echo chamber every time they turn their TV on or they look at Twitter, that it must be everybody that feels this way. No, it's just because everybody's being censored. And because they go hide in safe spaces and they refuse to actually even have some sort of, you know, debate just for the sake of, you know, entertaining debate or civil debate with anybody. They don't even know the drastic fucking number difference between the rest of the sane people. Like they think that they're sane and that they know best, but they're like a fraction. They're like the high intensity lockdown of the psychiatric ward. There's only like 3 or 4 of those rooms, and meaning there's only 3 or 4 of those kind of patients. But there's another like 20 plus of them that are in the rest of the hall. But just because that person that's in lockdown doesn't see anybody else, and they're getting their food and everything like that, they think that the whole world revolves around them. And yeah, but so that's kind of what's going into that. So it says you may think that others are trying to tell you what to do, but they're most likely trying to simply help you and get you to loosen up a bit, which is again what Steven Crowder's been doing recently with that whole change in my mind thing he's doing on YouTube, which is pretty fascinating. And again, that the one he just recently did, most of the people that came up were pretty civil, but the binary chick that basically shaves her head, and when she, like, even when he was trying to be as civil as possible, she was being fucking irate, even when she was, like, dominating the conversation. And I'm just like, dude. And then she says, if you call me a she, it's violence. He's like, no, violence is constituted as a crime. And it's like, no, it's not a crime. It's like, no, that's what it actually... A crime is basically defined as being physically assaulted or violence against someone. So if you were to commit violence against somebody, it has to be a crime. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what he was getting at. And she just started going fucking psycho. And then the whole mob tried to get him. But it says, you need to face the fact that you have a sense of duty of self-defeating. And that kind of just echoes that. Once you can let go and let others have a say and assist, then you'll likely feel much better. 7% crap. Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to cut this. Goodbye. My laptop's about to die.